YouTube, how did you doing? Films here, and today we're talking about some of the biggest winners and losers of the recent patch on April 30th for Deadlock. And if you're new here and you have no idea what this video is about, basically it's just me talking over who benefited the most from this patch and who was kind of hurt the most. Again, this video is in reference to the patch on April 30th. And if you like this type of content, want to see more, or you're just a fan of the channel and haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe. Of course, you can check out all the other content, whether it's Deadlock, Marvel Rivals, and so on. But anyways, let's get started. Now, when looking at the patch, one of the biggest things to keep in mind is that the base health per boon was reduced by 7. So in theory, every single character in the game is getting their HP dropped by 200, which is rather significant to a lot of different characters. Now, for example, a character like Mina got really affected by this because she no longer has that 1000 HP after a couple ability points. Mina was indirectly nerfed by this because she no longer has that giant health pool, but on the flip side, her ultimate is still super strong, even though they did kind of nerf how it interacts, but it doesn't change the fact that the tier 3 ability point order is still incredibly strong. That was just a little example of some of the health changes in theory. Now, one of the biggest winners this following patch is actually Billy. Now, not only did Billy receive a change where his Rising Ram tier 3 now also reduces its cooldown by 10 seconds, so in theory, at max level, Billy has his Rising Ram every 8 seconds, which is pretty insane. Following that, another thing that comes from the patch notes is that a lot of the flat damage characters and items just scale a lot better now, meaning if you're just doing flat gun damage and so on, you're going to be doing more damage. But some of the other things that correlate to making this character such a massive winner is the buff to Frenzy. Frenzy, the item, now grants you, instead of all these other aspects of the item, it now grants you 160 health, it gives you a base fire rate increase from 10 to 15%, and the low HP move speed is increased from 2.5 to 4. Another massive change is that Frenzy, low HP, now grants plus 30% debuff resistance, and then when the low HP procs, any existing debuffs are reduced by 30% duration. Frenzy low HP fire rate was increased from plus 25% to plus 40%. And that's not all. Frenzy low HP bonus is now given for a duration and has a cooldown. Whenever you are below the 50% threshold, it lasts 10 seconds and has a 16-second cooldown. This is just Omega buffing the Frenzy ability, the Frenzy item. Meaning this item, to which, Billy players would typically buy, is already going to be insane now. Paired with the new Rising Ram cooldown reduction, this is just a match made in heaven. Now, there's also some more items that got some pretty significant buffs and changes, and those are the likes of Shadow Weave and Heroic Aura that can be built on Billy because they're so good now. For example, Heroic Aura, the cooldown was reduced from 25 seconds to 22. It might not mean that much of a difference, but the big difference is that Heroic Aura, the bullet resistant aura, is increased from 15 to 17%, which is only about 2%, but still a rather significant change that allows you to have more uptime with this and just have a lot more bullet resistance. The next big thing is Shadow Weave. Basically, the cooldown was increased because it got swapped to a tier 3 item now. You also have some reductions to the ambush spirit power reduced, fire rate, and the melee damage reduced as well, but the big thing is it's now a tier 3 item and allows for a lot more plays. The same could be said with items like Colossus, where it got a new health increase, and you can even buy Trophy Collector now on Billy because of the reduction in the price with 1600, and this grants you better souls over time and so on. But basically a ton of these changes to items and to Billy himself, and just the overall changes with the health, HP reduced, and everything like that. This means Billy scales a lot better now. Now, moving on, we come to one of the losers of this patch, and honestly, the loser is Infernus. Now, Infernus, and I only say it in the aspect of the Flame Dash build. The Flame Dash DPS Spirit Scaling was reduced from 1.0 to 0.7, and the Flame Dash DPS now does half damage to objectives, which is pretty significant. Overall, a solid change. I only say he's a mediocre loser because it doesn't really change the rest of his kit. For example, Afterburn and everything else is still, decently strong if you're playing the explosive build, or if you're just playing for the Afterburn build as well, so the gun build. I only say that he's a loser because I guess a major part of his kit, the Flame Dash, is really not good anymore. But that doesn't mean the character is obsolete. You can build them in different ways now, instead of just focusing primarily on the flame dash, which overall I think is just good for the game, because I think taking walkers at like 15 minutes or taking walkers at 10 minutes with the flame dash build was a little bit ridiculous, so it seems like a decent change. Now, the second biggest winner in my eyes has to be Pocket. Now, why? Because he does a lot of flat base damage, and because everybody got a health reduction, means Pocket now excels even more. Some other things to keep in mind is that Pocket just got straight up buffed. For example, Pocket is Enchanter's Satchel Spirit scaling was increased from 0.9 to 1.1, which is rather significant. Following that, the Affliction cooldown was reduced from 150 seconds to 140, meaning you can have more Pocket ults, so more Afflictions, and because people have less base health, means you can do a lot more. Some other notable things, just like other characters in this game, Pocket can benefit from Trophy Collector because you're just trying to get as much souls as you can, so having it can be useful in different scenarios, just hypothetically speaking, because you can get a ton of assists with this character and just do a ton of damage. Also, an item like Spirit Burn got buffed, so having Spirit Burn with this character is insane as well. Now, for the most part, a lot of the patches or the patch notes recently, there isn't really too many negative effects to some of the characters. Yeah, there's certain characters that might have benefited from the more HP, like Mina, for example, but overall it didn't really affect them too much. If you look at a character maybe like Viper, they kind of nerfed her in terms of abilities, but they didn't really nerf her because of why she's so strong. She's so strong because of her gun damage and other factors, not any of her abilities. So it's kind of interesting to see that. Now, some other characters you could think about looking at as some of the quote-unquote losers, I guess, in a way, could be a character, for instance, I guess like Apollo, because this disengaging sigil, his base damage was reduced from 100 to 85, but they didn't really change anything else in his kit. He's still super annoying in lane. And to be honest, a lot of these other character changes doesn't really do anything. Like, you could kind of look at Shiv, for example. His ult fire knockback was reduced by 10%. And from what I've told and what I've heard from a lot of the Shiv one tricks or Shiv mains is that, yeah, it is different. You can see and feel that it's reduced, but it isn't that significant to his overall movement. Yeah, it does hurt, but not really. And then his serrated knife spirit scaling was reduced from 0.15 to 0.13, and his spirit scaling reduced from 0.1 to 0.09 for his tier 3 ability point. Overall, he has some slight nerfs in tuning to Shiv, but overall the character still kind of feels the same as what he once was. I mean, he still is super strong. I think this character will always be strong, mainly because of his bloodletting ability. And this character, since the dawn of his release, has only been nerfed because of how just unique and interesting and different this character is. So I don't think this character will really ever be weak in any sort of stance. So that is one thing to be thinking about. Now, for the last specific winner I want to talk about is Calico. Now, before you say in the comments down below anything, there is a ton of different winners and losers of this patch. These are just some of the characters that I'm highlighting. You can all have your own opinions in different stances, which is perfectly fine, but let me know what you think in the comments down below. The last one, Calico, honestly, because what they did was reduce the base health per boom, so you have less health, meaning assassin characters excel a lot more now. And for instance, a lot of the items this character buys is now excelling even more. Take, for example, you could use Shadow Weave Calico, and I think it's fantastic. It gives you a lot of jump potential and early game pressure that you might not have had before because of the changes. You also have some other changes to, again, just flat base damage. Like I said, I think Calico excels even more now because of her flat base rate damage. And again, just all the other changes surrounding this character, like Cold Front height increase. You also have Spirit Snatch increased, which is all pretty good. That benefit Calico quite consistently. You also have Trophy Collector that helps her roam around the map a lot. She gets a ton of assists and a ton of kills, so that will really help her as well. Again, the big one, Shadow Weave, is probably going to be very annoying to deal with, a Shadow Weave Calico, so those are some things you want to be considering and thinking about. Like I said, this was just a little bit of my insight of what I think of the biggest winners and some of the losers coming this patch, the patch that's already out that dropped April 30th. But anyways, that was one of my first videos for the biggest winners and losers for Deadlock. Let me know what you think. Do you like this type of content? Do you want to see more of it? If you do, let me know in the comments down below. Hopefully this video has helped you in any way, shape, or form. I hope you have a great and safe day, and I'll catch you in the next one.